All right. Today your mock-ups for the web were due, and I did have a screw up in my notes, which a lot of you realized and hopefully saw that I corrected Blackboard. In the export as, the whole idea is you're exporting for the web, and PSD is not a web file. So those buttons had to be JPEGs. There is no such thing as an export to PSD. So it was the two PSD files of your whole mock-up, one with frames and then one finished, and then the 4 buttons. Today, we're backtracking in the book. We're going to chapter 11, which is on video. And we're going to learn how to use Photoshop to make an easy video, which is kind of fun. Next year, you guys are going to have Adobe Premiere and After Effects, which is the real video making software. And I haven't taught video in Photoshop for about 4 years because of that other class, but I thought, in a way, why not learn it now? Because it's a simple tool that you can use right now. And it's like 1,000% less intimidating. Well, 100% easier, less intimidating than Premiere. Premiere is the professional, how you really make videos. Photoshop is how we make them easy and quick, and we can do a lot of really cool stuff. So we're going to work through the chapter together today. I'm going to have you make something today in class, and then my challenge for you is over the long holiday weekend, gather some video, whether it's of your animal or your family or a fight that breaks out at Thanksgiving table or whatever. And when we come back next week after Thanksgiving, we'll do one more chapter in the book, but then I'm going to give you time to put that together as a video also. So the more you practice with this, the more logical it becomes. So we'll do that today, but your homework is going to be just to shoot some video on your phones, I assume. If you don't have that capability, a lot of digital cameras have that ability. And we're just going to put together little snippets. Our attention span is really quite short. I challenge you when you're watching a commercial to see how long the same image stays on the screen, unless they're doing it for dramatic effect. Like if people are walking down a path, we see them walk 1,001, 2,003. We're ready for something else. So if you have them walking for 10 seconds down a path, your viewer is going to be like, oh, you know. So think about that too. We'll be cutting them down. So that's the plan for today. We're going to start by looking at the final product. I'm going to go into Bridge and show you this final product. Whoops. Come on. Were you able to log in, or was my screen takeover screwing it up? You're fine? Okay. All right. Photoshop book files. Lesson 11. And so MP4 is the video format that we will be exporting to at the very end. And because of that, it pops up in QuickTime. Okay, I have no idea where the volume is going to be here, so hang on. I guess it's not going to exist. All right, we'll play that again. Okay, that's the final product that we are ultimately going to make. So if you're either in Bridge or in Photoshop, we're going to be in chapter 11, we're going to be opening the 11 end PSD. So it's Photoshop document. End PSD. All right, once you've done that, because it's a PSD file in Photoshop, we're going to see that there's a bunch of different layers. And we also see icons in the corner of some of them showing us that they are video. So we have video group 1 and video group 2. This is just the initial files. You don't have to start your document this way, just so you know, but they've acquired all these still pictures and videos for us and put them in one file that we could open. So that's why we're starting here. All right, first thing that we need to do is let's get into the window workspace and get into, oops, the motion workspace. And then at the bottom, we want to see a timeline. So if you can't for some reason, under window, make sure that timeline is checked. And if you need to expand it, it's down here. There we go, I can pull that up. The timeline should be at the bottom. So pull it up enough that you can see what's going on down there, and still have room to see your video up above. And what you'll notice over here is that we have 3 tracks existing for us. We have an audio track that they made automatically right down here, and then we have video group 1 and video group 2. And that's because in our original PSD that we opened up, they had already made video group 1 and 2. So if I spin those shut, you'll see that there's 2 video groups. So it assumed that we needed 2 different tracks for that. All right. If you want to zoom in on parts of the timeline, there's a little slider down here at the lower left corner, and you can make it bigger by sliding to the right or sliding to the left. So when you get it to a certain size, you'll actually see that there are things going on. You can see the preview of it. You can see that there's transitions in here because this is the end file. Do you see this ramp over here? That indicates that something's happening and going out. So it's probably a fade to black or something like that. So this is what your end file will ultimately look like. Everybody good? We're going to close it and move on. Okay. Close that down. Don't save. All right. We are going to start brand new. So we're going to say create new back in our front section here. And then of these presets up here, we've never really paid a lot of attention. We've maybe used print or web, but there is one called film and video. We're going to click on that tab, and then we're going to choose in the presets, we're going to choose HD TV 720p, which is that second option. And then we're going to come over to the right-hand column and we're going to name it with your name and then working, like a working file, .psd. So HDTV 720. You guys know if you've looked at or bought TVs lately, like 1080p is the more high res or the 4Ks. 720 is more traditional or not super high res, so it's perfect for things like YouTube and most TVs, just not crystal clear ones. So that's what we want to use. Because we selected that, it automatically picked the dimensions for us, and all we have to do is say create. And here's our file. Let's ensure that we're in the motion workspace, which we should be if you switched it before. So workplace, motion, make sure that's one we're working in. Down at the bottom of our timeline, make sure that you can see enough of it that we can see this button where it says create video timeline. So this is your starting point when you're working from scratch and people don't give you a PSD file of all their assets. So we would say create video timeline. Click that and automatically 2 things are added. An audio track layer and a video track layer. And the video track layer is called layer 0. And you can see there's little helpful hints for this. There's this black hint that popped up that said, click the video icon to add media to a track. drag clips to rearrange or combine them. So there's a little like film strip looking thing here with a down arrow. We're going to click on that and choose Add Media. So that's going to be the stuff that we're adding to it. And navigate to your Lesson 11 file. And we're going to select number 1 through 6. So if you hold down Shift, it's going to select all of them. So we have a JPEG, 2 movies, and 3 more JPEGs. And then we're going to say Open. That's going to import all 6 of those assets in that order, and notice how it made them a group and it named all the layers. So layer 0 is still that original layer, but now we have layer 1 family, boat ride, dog at beach, etc., etc. Let's zoom in on your timeline so you can see it a little bit better. So use that slider at the bottom. Images, JPEGs are in purple. Video clips are in blue. So you can visually, real quickly look at this and realize what's going on. Let's go over to our layers panel. Layer 0 is that first thing, and you can see how it shows up first in our timeline, and we absolutely don't need that at all. So we're going to delete layer 0. Either click on the delete button or drag it down to the trash, or right click and delete it. Now our starting video is the first one. All right, if we look at video clips, this first clip that's selected right now, number 1 family, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on that so you guys can see what's going on. All these clips are different sizes, length of time, and we're going to make them all 3-second clips. So how things are measured in video is by seconds and frames. Depending on what format you're in, there's usually 29.97 frames per second, so 30 frames per second. Does anybody remember when they were kids doing flip books where you'd like draw a little animation on a piece of paper and flip through it and you would see the thing moving? It's basically what animation is, or what movies are. It's a bunch of still photos flipped by so fast that we see it as animation. That's just the way it is. So 30 of those per second makes it look alive, like a video. And then you can also measure in parts of it. So if it's 2:05, it's 2 seconds and 5 frames beyond that. Okay, that's how we're going to measure. All right. Make sure that you can see this first clip, family, that you've zoomed in enough that you can see a little identity of it, and you can see how long is this one. Can anybody kind of guess on the timeline above there?
5 seconds.
Yep, exactly. 5 seconds, 0 frames. We're going to hover over the right edge of it, and when your cursor turns into a double arrow and you can pull to the left, we're going to start pulling to the left, and I want you to notice in that tooltip where it says duration, take that down to 3 seconds, so 300, or as close as you can get by dragging. And when you let go, that shortened it to 3 seconds, and it pulled the next clip close to it. All it did was take off whatever existed in seconds 3 to 5. It just cut those off. It went back to the 3-second point. We're going to learn in way more detail in Adobe Premiere how you pick the 3 seconds that you want, because maybe it's not the first 3. Maybe it's seconds 2 through 4 or 5 or whatever. For this purpose, we're just going to learn the absolute basics and know, again, that especially as graphic designers, you're going to be using Premiere a lot more than this. All right, let's do the same thing with, oh, by the way, that was a JPEG, so it doesn't matter at all. It's going to show for 3 seconds. However, this next clip is a movie. So this is going to shorten it from the end. So click to select the clip first. So either select it in the layers panel or click on it in the timeline and you get a white box around it. And then again, hover over that left edge and start pulling back. And we're going to shorten this one to 3 seconds as well. Where you see your tooltip now is in this pop-up window
we see a duration at the top right of that pop-up window. So pull that back down to 3 seconds. You guys seeing that? Okay, good. It's hard for me to move my mouse and show you where it was. All right, that just took the first 3 seconds of that clip, period. All right, we're gonna do the same with all of the clips. So go to the dog at the beach. That's a video clip. Shorten that one to have a duration of 3 seconds. And then click on the 3 JPEGs, and we only want them showing for a duration of 3 seconds as well, so shorten them. So when you've completed that, you now have all 6 of your clips showing for a total of 3 seconds, whether it's a still image showing for 3 seconds or a video clip running for 3 seconds. Now the thing that we have to deal with is that not all of these images are the right size for the canvas. So still pictures might be taken with a high-res camera and have way too many pixels, and video might be shot with your iPhone, or then the next clip is shot on a digital camera and the next clip is shot on whatever. Here's a super helpful tip that you have to know about. When you're shooting video with a phone, keep your phone this way. This is the way that TVs and YouTube, everything lives, right? Is the horizontal, the long width, where it's really easy to hold it upright and record. When you do that and you come to make videos in here or Premiere, the tall version, it's going to fit the height, and then it's going to have 2 black bars on both sides. And you guys have probably seen that. Looks stupid. So remember, hold your phone. Sorry, I have something in my mouth. Hold your phone horizontal. Think like a video maker, a film person. Okay. Family 1 layer. Let's choose layer 1. Go back to that. That activated the family layer. And in the upper right corner of this clip, of this purple clip in our timeline, you see a triangle. Click on that, and that opens your motion panel. We're going to choose from the motion, pan, and zoom, and really we're only choosing this to get more details to pop up in the next menu. So once we chose pan and zoom, there's an option that says resize to fill the canvas. And that's what we want to have turned on. It is checked on right now. And then click in an empty area to close that out. Now that made that picture fit the canvas, and it also activated the pan and zoom, but we don't really want that. We just needed to do that to get to that second option. So we're going to go back and click on that triangle again and see that the resize is still selected, but from the drop down, we're going to go back to no motion. We don't want any motion on that. We just wanted it to fill the canvas, and that was the way we had to do it. Okay, so we now have our picture filling the canvas. All right, let's do a save of our file just so we don't lose anything, and depending on how often you guys have the background save going on. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring text into this, and this requires keyframes. So how keyframes work in any animation, this, Premiere, anything else that you might use, is that it tells it a behavior to have at a certain point in the timeline. So at 2 seconds, this is where I want the word beach to show up on my graphic. And at 10 seconds, I want it to be off the screen. So we make a keyframe at 2 seconds, showing it how it should look there, and then at 10 seconds we know it's off the frame. The cool thing is that the software figures out how it behaves all of the baby steps in between. That's what tweening is called. And in the old days of Disney, the senior animators were the ones who would draw Mickey Mouse like this, and then Mickey Mouse like this. And the junior animators got to do all of these steps, the tweening. So we're pretty lucky. We now tell the software this is how you're going to behave on frame 1. This is where I want you on frame 65. You figure out how to get it to go across the screen, or how you get Mickey's finger from here to here. Pretty amazing. So we're going to have the word beach day start over here. So when we first see it, we barely see the letter B. And then by the time this clip is done, 3 seconds later, it's going to be off the screen over here. So we're going to make a keyframe over here for its starting position. And then at 3 seconds, we're going to tell it to end over here. And Photoshop is going to figure out how to make it animate across for us. All right. All right, go back to video group. No, I take that back. Go over here in video group 1. And where we have that little, on your timeline, where we have that little film strippy guy again and the down arrow, click on that. And instead of adding media to this track, we're going to add a whole new group. So click on new video group. And we see video group 2 is added. So this is another layer, if you will, in the timeline. The cool thing about how this works is we can have our words going. It's kind of like Photoshop where we stack things with transparency. So if we have the word beach floating above the picture of family, we can still see the family picture behind it. It's the transparency idea. So we're going to put the words up on this track. When we get into Premiere, all of our special effects that we run, we put on different tracks, and whatever's on top basically shines through to what's below it. So if we wanted these 2 tracks to be black and white, we would add a black and white adjustment up here. That's how we do it in Premiere. In Photoshop, it's even easier. We add it like directly here into the layer. But it's pretty cool the way it works. You can stack all these different effects. All right. Take your type tool and go over to, we're going to start at the ending point. We're going to go to the left edge, about halfway down, and we're going to type in, just click that down, we're going to type in beach day in capital letters, and then we're going to make it obviously a different font than I have. Up in your option bar, we're going to go with something kind of simple, Myriad Pro. And big type, 600 points. And white color. All right, what the heck is going on? So yours looking all that big too? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Commit to that. Click the mark for the yes. In our layers panel, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to our layers panel, and beach day is currently at 100% opacity. We want to tone that down. So we're going to take the opacity of that type down to 25%. So we can see through it. Then we're going to go to our timeline, and we're going to take this playhead. That's this red line with a blue top to it. We can drag that out, and if there were animation going on as we're dragging through the timeline or a video, we would see it moving. But because this is a still picture and still type, we don't see anything different. But we're going to take it to the end of this clip, which is at the 3-minute point, or 3 seconds, 0 frames. So drag your playhead out to the end of that clip, and then we're going to take we're going to click on the arrow to the left of the beach day clip. So over here on the left of the clip where it says beach day and there's a like opening arrow, click on that, and that rolls open a bunch of options. And we see, why did this go back here? I need that, oh, needs to be at the end of the video clip. That wasn't the right spot, sorry. By rolling that open, we see different things: transform, opacity, style, and text warp. These are different keyframes that we can apply to this. So at the end of this, we have to decide where we want it. All right, I'm missing a step. I've gone through this a million times and I'm still missing a step. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I know what we're supposed to do. Sorry. Before we move on, this beach day type, the thing that we want it to do is to stop at 3 seconds. We want it to quit when this family clip is done. So go into your video group 2 text layer, hover your cursor around the end of that and drag it back to be only 3 seconds long. All right, so it is the same duration as the video layer, or in this case, photo layer below it. Then take your playhead back to the start point. So pull that playhead, that blue line, back to the 0 point. And now we're going to hit, next to the word transform, there's a little stopwatch. We're going to click on that, and that makes a little yellow diamond. That's a keyframe. With our move tool, we're going to show it where we want this type to be at the beginning. So take the move tool and drag your type over. This type is too big. Does yours look this big?
Yeah.
What the heck's going on?
It's supposed to be 600.
Well, that's what it says, but I think 300 or 400 would be fine, but whatever. It doesn't matter because it's actually going to, it'll be cool if it fills the whole frame. It's whatever size you want it to be, but pull it over to where you want the starting point. So what this is saying is that at the start of this video, this layer of beach day is located right here. So the second it starts, that's where the letter B is. You also see all of these guidelines that are in here. Those have to do with safe areas. And depending on the different TV or dimensions, you want to keep your details inside of those rules because it might be cut off on some TVs. All right, so that's where we're starting our beach day. Now we want to move our playhead to the end of this clip. So drag it out to the very end at the 3 second point. And then we want to take our move tool again and we want to hold down shift and we want to pull beach day. What the heck is going on? Never had so many problems with this in my life. You guys see the word beach day? If you hold shift and pull it over to the other side, it'll stay on the exact same level, and you want to finish it with the Y over on the far side. Well, for crying out loud. Okay, there it is at least. So hold shift, drag it. And wherever you decide to stop it, that's where that keyframe will be at the end point. To see what you created, you can take your playhead and pull it through here. What is going on? All right, let's save our file. I'm sure you guys are having much better luck than I am. This is really not that hard. There we go. So starting keyframe 1, it's off the page on the right hand side. Last keyframe at the end of the 3 seconds, the Y is over here, and it does all the in-between work for you. All right. Creating effects. The cool thing about working in Photoshop with these is that all of the adjustment layers and styles and things that we know about Photoshop work in this as well with video. So we're going to apply it to the layer that it's on or the layer below it, depending on where we put these. Let's go to clip number 3, Dog at Beach. And you can click on it in the layers panel or in your timeline, either one. Move our playhead now to the beginning of that clip. So drag your playhead to where this video clip starts. And then with that layer selected in the layers panel, at the bottom of the layers panel, we're going to go to the add adjustment layer button, and we're going to choose the black and white option. And then in the black and white, you obviously could just make this a black and white clip. They talk about having it be tinted as a sepia. So if you click on the tint, you get that little brown version is the sepia color tone by default. If you wanted to make it another color, a red tint or a green tint, you obviously could tweak this, but that added the sepia. And you can see that when we drag our playhead across this video clip, the sepia is added only to that. It goes back to being full color by the time we get through that clip. All right. Let's move our playhead to the start of the fourth clip, dogs. And this is back to being a JPEG. So for the 3 seconds that this is showing, this photograph is going to stay in this exact position and be fairly boring. And what we can do is add some of those zoom effects where we can either zoom in or pan and zoom or zoom out and make it look like it has some animation. At the top right of this dogs clip in our timeline is the motion panel with that little arrow. So click on that, and we're going to choose the motion of zoom. And then we have some other options. Notice that you have the little reference point anchor, and it's showing the center as being locked down, and then we have zoom in or zoom out as options. We're going to take the upper left corner as our reference point, so click on that. It's going to zoom in from that point, and we're going to choose zoom in, and then just click away somewhere to apply that. And if we drag the playhead across, we can see how that's behaving. So it's keeping that top left corner anchored and zooming in from there. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to enlarge the image on that last keyframe in that clip also to make it even more dramatic. So in this clip, we're going to go and twirl open that right-facing arrow next to the word dogs 4. And you see that it has automatically added transformation keyframes for us, meaning at the start, we see the picture in its full form. And then by the end, we have zoomed in, keeping that top left point anchored, and it made all the keyframes in between that we needed. Once we open this up, we're going to move our playhead to the end. So we have that keyframe at the end. That's the one telling it how it should look at the very ending point. And from here, we're going to choose to free transform this. So edit free transform or Command T. And up in our, instead of dragging the bounding box, we're just going to go up into the option bar. And instead of telling it to be 87%, we're going to choose 120%. And as long as the lock is clipped down, that'll work for both dimensions. And now you can see it's a lot bigger. So not only is it going to zoom in, it's also going to get bigger and bigger over those 3 seconds by doing that. We have to commit to these changes, so either hit enter or up at the top we see that check mark. And that committed to those changes. So here's our starting point with the picture as the size that we started with. But not only does it zoom in, it's also getting bigger and bigger and bigger up to 120%. Okay. Let's just save our document again. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to animate an image kind of similar to what we just did, but instead of zooming in, we're going to make it move within the window of our screen. So we're going to start at one point in the picture and drag up. Move your playhead to the start of number 5, jumping, actually to the end. Take it to the end. and then click to select the clip. Either do it in the timeline or in the layers panel or both. You want to select the clip and have the playhead at the very end. With your move tool, hold shift and pull down, and we'll see that this image is very big and we were only seeing part of it. So we want to pull down on this image until the hands are what we're seeing at the top. So this is like our ending view. So we have the hands at the top. And now we want to twirl open the attributes for this layer as well. So we're going to click on that right arrow within the clip next to 5 jumping to get all of those attributes. And this time we want to click on the stopwatch for position. So this is where we want it to be positioned at the end of this clip. Now we're going to move our playhead to the beginning of the clip. And hold shift so that the picture stays in the same vertical position. Hold shift and now move it up to where you see his feet. So that's where we're going to start. There's more picture in here, but we want to kind of focus from his feet to his hands in these 3 seconds. And that added the second keyframe automatically. The first keyframe you have to manually add. You have to click on that open thing and go to the transform or position or opacity and set your first keyframe. Then when you move your playhead and you change something, it automatically knows a second keyframe needs to be there, and it figures out what to do in between. All right, hopefully that animated that picture as we pull our playhead across this. So for the 3 seconds, we're going to see, we're going to pan up on that image. You can close that clip's attributes by just twirling shut that right-facing arrow in that clip. The next thing we're going to do is add some pan and zoom to this last clip as well, the sunset clip. So let's take our playhead to the beginning of clip 6, sunset. And let's twirl open its motion. So that right arrow at the top. And we're going to choose pan and zoom. And we're going to choose zoom out. And we're going to, the resize to fit canvas is still selected, which is good. And then we're just going to click somewhere to close that window and see what we did to that. So now we're zooming out. Okay. Let's save at this point. So now we have all of our clips positioned. They're all 3 seconds, and we've applied some degree of animation or something fun. So we did keyframes with the word beach day. The video is as it is, the first video. The second one, we added that sepia adjustment layer. The next one, we zoomed in and made it larger. This one, we panned up and down. And this one, we're zooming out. So those are the different things that we've done. Now we're going to add transitions between the clips because they abruptly stop and the next one starts. And, you know, the human eye doesn't necessarily see that, but it's more soothing a lot of times to have a little bit of a transition, whether it's a crossover. Sometimes they're so short that you don't notice it, but other times the transitions can be maybe 5 seconds, and you've seen that where all of a sudden you see the next picture coming in, and then the other one fades away, and then you're to that one. So depending on the length of your transition, you can either easily see them with the human eye or not so easily. All right, down in our timeline on the left-hand side where we have kind of what looks like the layers menu, we see some options down here. And depending if your timeline or if your playhead is out somewhere in the timeline out here, one of the options that will be lit up back over here on the left-hand side is an option to go to the very first frame. And that's an easy way to get back to frame 0. So if you're not on frame 0, go to this back button, back to frame 0, and that's going to put your playhead at the start. You can drag it back, you can click that button, whatever. Also, up in this timeline panel, we have things like play, forward, mute the audio playback, set some options, split it, and then the next one, which is a box that's half black and half white, that's our transitions. We want to click on that, and that's going to pop up some different transitions that are built into Photoshop. There's a million more in other software, but in Photoshop, this is what we have. So we have a fade, crossfade, fade with black, fade with white, or fade with color. We also have the duration, how long this is going to last, and this is where you can change this. So if you wanted a 3-second duration, obviously that's cutting, since these are only 3-second clips, when this clip is halfway through, it's already going to cross over with the next one, and then that one's going to start blending with the next one. So a long transition is not going to work here because our clips are so small. We want to actually slow this down. We want to take it to 0.25 seconds. So a quarter of a second. So either drag your slider or type that in. And we're going to choose the crossfade option. And then all we need to do is drag it from this panel down into our layer 1 and position it halfway between, or right on the break between the two. So we see that half of it is on on the first clip, half of it's on the second clip, and then let go. When you do that, it actually pulls the second one over a little bit so it has room to overlap it, and it puts that crossfade between the two. Okay? Let's do the same with the rest of the clips. So take a crossfade and drag it down between all of these meeting points. So we have 1/4 second crossfades. And then we want to change a fade with black. We want to choose that one, and we want to drag that one to the end of our final clip. So take it to the end of the sunset clip. And that would make it fade into black. And again, it's only for a 1/4 of a second. So what you can do, if you didn't change the duration up here in this panel before you put it on, you can always do it down in the timeline. If you hover over the left edge of this ramp, you see you get your double arrows again, and you can now pull that, and you're going to see your duration change. Doesn't really matter what the duration is, but we're going to make it be about 1/3, the last 1/3 of that clip. So visually, when you think you are either at like the last third, just let go. So I'm going to drag all the way here. Here's where the fade to black starts coming in. And there it goes. All right, save your file. Audio. Automatically, when you make a new project, it gives you a blank video track and a blank audio track. And right now, we're going to want to add something to our audio. So go down into your timeline, and where you see audio track, to the right of that, you have some musical notes and a down arrow. You're going to click on that and add audio. Fortunately, in Lesson 11, they gave us a beach song MP3. Here's a little warning. When you start doing these for your own fun and you use a popular music song, just say Taylor Swift since she's having big battles right now, that's copyrighted, and you try to share it on YouTube or Facebook, you're going to get called out because it's copyrighted music. You need to have music that's royalty free that you're allowed to use. So you can go, but I own that, I bought it. That might be true, but you're not free to use it in other things. So what I'm going to show you in next year is how to kind of, cheat's not the right word, how you can strip audio out of videos that you find on YouTube just for the purpose of classes. But in reality, you're going to have to buy royalty free music. And the nice thing is that there are sites out there that allow you to, there's free options or there's paid things. So if you're really into video editing, quite clearly, you're going to buy some paid version of licensing for good sound. You don't want that horrible little, what was it, MIDI, M-I-D-I? Do you guys remember that? It sounded like a little organ. Yeah, you don't want that as your music because that's the only free thing you could find. There's tons of it out there, and a Google search will help you find free, royalty-free music, meaning you're free to use it. So they gave it to us. We're going to say, okay, Beach Song MP3 open, and there it goes. Do you guys see anything in the timeline that's maybe of concern? Yeah, and is that cool when your song goes another 3 minutes after your video's ended? Probably not. So guess what we can do? Huh? Well, exactly. That's one thing. I mean, timing it out so that your images end at the end of a song, or when you switch to a new song that's upbeat and all of a sudden you're in happy pictures, stuff like that's important. But for the sake of this, we just want it to end. So I need to change my view to be a little bit smaller so I can see the end of this video or audio clip. And then we're just going to go to the end of it and we're going to drag and snap it to the end of our video clips so that the music ends when the video ends. That's one way of doing it. And in this case, let's play it and see what it sounds like. And hopefully I actually have sound. If I don't, I'm going to be very disappointed. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Let's all do an undo, Command Z, so that we have that long video clip again. Let's take our playhead and drag it to the end of the video, where the last video ends. And wherever your playhead is, when you do some certain things, it assumes that you want to apply it to wherever your playhead is. So we're going to go and use that scissor icon that's on the left-hand side over here where our timeline is. There's a little scissor that's split at the playhead. We're going to click on that, and it automatically cut where our playhead is. So I want you guys to be aware that if you have your playhead in some random spot and you click on the scissor, that's where it's going to cut. Okay? So now the easy thing to do is that we have two different audio clips here. The easy thing to do is just to go and select the second clip, make sure that you have the white box around that only and not the other one, and then just hit delete on your keyboard. And that wipes it out. And basically we're at the same point. Another helpful hint, wherever your playhead is, if you want to play and pause, the spacebar does the trick. So spacebar will play and pause. All right, we have a little bit of an issue here with the boat ride. Do you want to hear the noise of the boat? If you do, it's in there, that's fine. What we're going to learn in Premiere is how we can make maybe the song get quieter then so that we can hear the boat, or people are talking, we can hear them better, or we can get rid of the sound of the boat and just have our music playing, which is what we want to do in this case. So muting unwanted video. All right. Another thing we're going to do to our audio clip before we move on is we're going to add a fade to that too, so that it gets quieter at the end and doesn't just abruptly end. So at the right edge of the audio clip, down here we have an arrow. We're going to click on that, and we see that we have the volume is at 100%, but we have fade in and fade out. We're going to start with a 3-second fade in. So our music is gradually going to get louder, and a 5-second fade out. So towards the end of our video, it's going to start getting quieter. And then click in an empty area, And now we should have a decent fade out. Okay, there we go. All right, boat ride clip. Let's go to the boat ride clip and select that. And we're gonna choose the triangle at the right end, again, where we have this. And we have our video where we have the duration, 3 seconds, speed. This is also kind of neat. This is where you can speed up or slow down, so you can do slow motion or fast motion in here. But we're gonna click on the musical notes, and we're gonna choose the mute the audio of this clip. So the noise of the boat, or if people happen to be talking in the boat, we don't wanna hear. So in the audio button, mute the audio. And click away to apply that. And then Dog at Beach is also a video clip. Maybe there's noise in that. We don't want it. So we're going to click on this arrow at the right corner. We're going to choose the music notes again and choose mute audio on that clip as well. All right, so now we shouldn't have that sound. Yep, no more boat noise. All right, let's save our file. And the last thing that we have to do is turn this into a video, because right now we're in Photoshop. We have to render it out. So this is 6 clips at 3 seconds each. How long is that?
18 seconds.
Yes. In the world of video, pretty small, right? You're now going to see what rendering is like. When we start rendering our 2 and 3 minute videos that we're going to make next year, we'll go get a cup of coffee while it's rendering. If you're rendering a 10-minute video, definitely go get a cup of coffee. Maybe even drive to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. It's a very slow process, and it's very RAM intensive, and you need to have a good computer to handle it. So don't be doing this on your 2003 Windows 7 XP laptop. Okay, it won't work well. All right, so we've saved our file. There's 2 ways that we can do this. We can do a file, export, render, or there's just this little arrow button way down at the bottom left corner of this window. It's teeny tiny, way down at the bottom left, render video, and we're gonna click on that. It's the same thing as going through the menu of file, export, render video. And it's going to give us that same name, but notice it put an MP4 extension on it because that's a video extension. This should be going into our lesson 11 folder, but if for some reason you wanted it to go elsewhere, here's where you could select the folder and say, nope, put this on my desktop or put this here, whatever. In the presets, okay, the different kind of encoding here, I don't want you to worry so much about this format, but H.264 is the standard in US, but to the right of it is the preset. Click on that and look at all the options that you have. You can optimize it for use on an Android phone 360p. You can optimize it for high definition 720 output, 1080p. You can optimize it for YouTube or Vimeo. So the one we're going to choose is YouTube High Def 720p 29.97. That's 29.97 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and that's the way we built it. So YouTube, 720p 29.97. And then we're going to click render. And we're going to drink our coffee, and we're going to watch it do its thing. And again, this is a small 18-second video. So you can start to imagine, and also there's not a lot going on here. It's just video clips with a few special effects and then one text animation. The more detailed these get, especially in Premiere, After Effects is the motion graphics software that we're going to learn. That's like at the start of when you go to the movies and you see, titles come in and catch on fire, and People, one of my students last year did, he was standing on the bridge and then all of a sudden it looked like he had fire under his feet and he flew up in the air. He did all that in After Effects. So it's really fun stuff. But After Effects, that like 2-second clip that he did probably took 10 minutes to render and added a ton of data to his file. But it's very cool. So this is pretty simplistic, but I think you guys can have a lot of fun with this immediately. And, you know, Christmas, maybe you go through all the old family photos and you make a little video for the fam, show it on the TV. There's all sorts of endless ideas here. So hopefully the rendering is going. And when it's done, all right, it's done. I'm going to go into Bridge. And I now have Brenda working MP4. That's my version. So double click, it's going to load QuickTime because that's the default player on a Mac. Do you notice that I screwed up? My positioning for Beach Day at the end was lower. I didn't hold the shift key. So do you notice how my words actually dropped down also? They're falling off the page. Yay, we made a video. Did you enjoy that? Yes? You guys awake? All right, so getting into the holiday. Remember, your homework is to come back next week with some video clips and still pictures to put something together and have fun with it. Be whatever you want. But your in-class homework, I want you to practice this. I want you to either, if you have pictures of your own, if they're on your phone and you want to email them to yourself or put them in a OneDrive or a Google Drive. If you have an iPhone and you guys want to use AirDrop to get it from your phone to your computer, I'll show you that real quickly because it's super cool. What you need to do to make AirDrop work, if you have that option, if you're on a Mac, is get back to your desktop and click on the desktop so that you see the basic Finder options. And under the Go menu, we have AirDrop. And Shift-Command-R is the shortcut for it. Go to AirDrop, and then you have things allow me to be discovered by, and this is probably set at no one, contacts only, everyone. You're going to need to set it as everyone. Ryan, I see you. That's cool. Then go into your own iPhone, if you have one, and go to Settings, and make sure that your AirDrop is turned on there as well. Where did you go? Then all you need to do is go into your photos, wherever you have them on your phone, and pick a picture. And then in the upload, AirDrop should be an option. And I see all the different things, and oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch of them because they're all by number, and I don't know who I am. Who am I? Well, I'm going to AirDrop this picture to somebody. 18510. Who's getting it? Says waiting. Okay, whoever that is doesn't want to play. Samantha, you have a name. That's probably when your phone says. Okay, never mind. Well, shoot. All right, everybody shut down your AirDrops. Allow me to be discovered by no one. Change it on your school computer right now.
Oh, wait. Administrator's iPhone wants to send you a photo.
That was you.
Okay.
Okay. So say, and I'll demo this. Say accept. And it goes in your downloads. Can you, okay, everybody say set it to no one so I can tell who I am on here. Okay, what the heck is going on here? No one. Oh, I know who I am. Everyone. Okay, so I sent it to this. On my phone, it was an L131-18748. The good news is for you guys, these numbers are actually on stickers behind your Mac, so you can look and see which one you are. But this is what it looks like, and you have an option to open it in Photos, which is a Mac product that I don't like. So I'm just going to say accept, and it goes into my downloads. And now just that quickly, I have a picture from my phone right here on there. So if you want to send your own pictures to work on this in class, you can. Or remember, there's something pretty cool called Unsplash. And this is royalty-free stuff. You have films that you can use, so video clips, and you have tons and tons of, oh, you guys are looking at your numbers. I'm like, what's everybody doing? And there's still pictures on here. So what I want you to do in class is to make yourself a fun little video. I want you to practice everything we did in the book. So I want at least 6 clips. I want you to animate some type. I want you to put on some special effects. I want you to have transitions, fade ins, fade outs. Go look for some royalty-free music to add to it. And then if you want, I want to see it to know that you did it in class time. And then if you want to export it to a YouTube and actually do something with it, or share it on your own Facebook or something like that, that's perfectly fine. That's not a requirement for this. I just want to walk around and see your videos. So make a video in class today. Have an awesome Thanksgiving break, although I'll see most of you tomorrow. And then make some new recordings to intentionally make a video next week in class also. And remember to hold your camera horizontally to film in that format when you use your phone. Yes? No, next week I'm going to go on to the next chapter in the book, which is outputting for print. I'm going to lecture on that, but then you're going to have work time. So you'll have at least 3 hours, I'm guessing, to work on it in class. Yeah, and if I find that people aren't getting done, I might extend the deadline on the video parts, but definitely have work time next week. So just come prepared with videos and clips to make something fun. And if you want to store them in your cloud account, either in your Adobe Cloud, or if you want to share them in your OneDrive so that they're all available to you when you get to class, that'd be great.